Good afternoon and welcome to God's Way to Health. We're glad you're here with us this evening, and we hope that you've been blessed so far with our meetings. I'd like to welcome those who are watching with us online, that you're here with us. We're thankful for that. Just one note, if you have not been here before, but as we broadcast because of restrictions for copyright, we're unable to put the slides on the screen, so you'll be unable to hear or see what we're talking about, but at least you will be able to hear, and I will share with you each verse and thing that we have read. So our message for this evening is called The Liquid of Life. One of the most famous poems in the English language was written in 1797 by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. It's called The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and it tells of an ill-fated sea voyage. At one point, the ship is powered only by wind, and it sits dead in the middle of a calm, waveless sea. And so a section of the poem reads like this: Day after day, day after day, we stuck, nor a breath nor motion, as idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. Water, water everywhere, and all the boards did shrink. Water, water everywhere, not any drop to drink. Think about that. Water, water all around you, and yet not one drop to drink. And it must be a terrible feeling to be surrounded by water and dying of thirst. All this vast ocean of clear blue water that looks so good that you just love to take a drink of, but yet the water is unfit for human consumption. It's salt water. And drinking a bunch of that would be like drinking poison. Ocean water is great if you want to go sailing or fishing or even paint a picture of it or just to look at it, just beautiful. But it's deadly for us to drink. It's kind of ironic because most of our planet, when you look at it from space, the color you see is blue. Our world is 71% ocean water, but it is salt water. And while this water is good for fish and whales and coral and many other creatures that thrive in it, for us, for humans, to drink it is death. In fact, all the water on the earth, only about 2/5 of 1% is drinkable. That is 0.37% in its natural state is drinkable. That's a fraction of what is on the earth right now. And so water is really a very precious commodity, especially when you realize that it is essential to all life on earth, including humans. And our planet wouldn't be a planet as we know it if it didn't have water, drinkable water. Water is about as basic to our existence as is air. No wonder then the Bible talks so much about water, and it does so in many different contexts. The Bible depiction of what the earliest time of earth was before it was ever created, at the beginning of the 6 days, here's the way the Bible describes it in Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and was void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. So based on texts like these, the face of the deep and the face of the waters, we conclude that water certainly was here from the very beginning of earth's existence. And by the second day of creation, there was dividing of the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And on day 3, what happens next is the waters under heaven were gathered together into one place so that dry land would appear. Water, water everywhere. So water was clearly a part of the earliest stages of our planet's existence. But in Genesis chapter 2, we also see water, but now in a different form. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 6, it tells us, "But there went up from amidst of the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. the mist is like a vapor that comes up from the ground. We've all seen a dew on the ground. Well, this is water that came up from the ground and watered the ground. It nourished the new planet. We didn't need rain because the ground watered everything that was necessary. And then in the same chapter, a few verses later, the Bible tells us that there was a river that watered Eden and divided into 4 rivers, and each was given its own name. And then, of course, we talk about the wickedness of humanity was so great that God decided to destroy the human race and the whole world and start over again. And he did it with what? With water. Genesis 7, verse 19. And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. The water, which was so crucial to life, also can be a form of death and destruction. So we're going to jump ahead some more chapters to the Exodus from Egypt. And what was crucial, the defining moment, what was crucial was when this nation was being formed. What was it that happened? It was a dividing of the waters at the Red Sea. In Exodus 14, verses 21 and 22, it says, "And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground. And the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left." Wow, that must have been quite the sight to see a whole sea divided so that about 2 or 3 million people could walk through it on dry land. Walls of water. Must have been an incredible sight to see. And so scholars have long noted the parallel with this story to the original creation event. In the Bible, the word for spirit, the Spirit of God that hovered over the waters in Genesis 1, verse 1, is the same word that was used for wind that God used to divide the waters during creation. And then at the Red Sea. And of course, by dividing of the waters, dry land appeared in both events. In the creation of the world, and later in the exit of Egypt, in the delivery from Egypt. So we want to talk about water now in the New Testament, where we see the prevalent role of water, one of the most powerful images being that of baptism. Baptism by immersion, the symbolic of the death to our old self and of rising up to a new life in Christ. The Apostle Paul says it clearly, "Or do you not know that as many of us were baptized into Christ Jesus, were baptized into his death?" Romans 6, 3 and 4. "Therefore we were buried with him through baptism into death, that just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in the newness of life." Again, that's Romans chapter 6, verses 3 and 4. So notice with me the newness of life. The waters of baptism point to a new life in Jesus Christ. And so here we again see water associated with life, though now in a spiritual sense. And that's not surprising, is it? Water is essential to life at the most basic level. You know, we cannot exist as spiritual beings without first being physical beings. The physical life, or at least as we know it here on earth, cannot exist without water. When water ceases, we cease. We can go about 3 days, a little over 3 days, without water before we die. Without water, our heart, our liver, our kidneys, everything would stop functioning and we would die. We have trillions of cells in the human body, and every last one of them needs water to survive. Next to air, the air that we breathe, water is the most vital element needed for survival. By weight, a newborn infant is approximately 75% water, and an adult human being is about 70% water. And so a person, say a man weighing about 200 pounds, would have about 140 pounds of water in his body. The gray matter of the brain, it's about 80 to 85% water. Blood is 90% water. Muscles are 75% water. And even our hard bones are a whopping 31% water. The cells and the tissues of the body not only contain water, but are also bathed in fluid and require water to perform their functions. Water is the liquid of life, and it performs so many functions for our body that are absolutely essential for our existence and well-being. Water forms the way of transportation of things through our body, the nutrients, the things that we need that makes our blood work. Water is a lubricant for our movement. Our joints, we don't go pump some oil in there and move them around like we do in the car. Water is the prime way of transporting waste via the kidneys. Water helps keep our body at the right temperature, not too hot, not too cold. And our blood is composed mainly of water. Leviticus 17 verse 11 says, "For the life of the flesh is in the blood." And if blood can't function without water, then again we see how crucial water is for our existence, because the life of the flesh is in the blood. And about 2/3 of the water that we have in our body is taken in orally, and about 1/3 from food. A small portion of that water is synthesized in our body during food metabolism. You know, fruits and vegetables, they have a much higher concentration of water than other foods do. You know, there's more water in an apple than in a box of French fries. And of course, there are a dozen other reasons why we don't want to eat French fries, but that is the one for our discussion tonight. Ideally, the body maintains a balance between the amount of water lost each day and taking back in that which is lost. The average human, you know, how much do you think the average human, just by the normal activities of a day, how much water do you think has given off their body through sweat, perspiration, and breathing? About 6/10 of a gallon of water a day the body loses just by normal activity. And if you do prolonged heavy exercise, that turns into 1.75 gallons each day by heavy exercise. The point is, by the mere act of living, much less in working and doing whatever we do, we are expending water. The more active we are, then it makes sense, the more that we're going to use up. And that water needs to be replaced somehow. Now, the body is a magnificent machine. It recycles a lot of water. It can use water over and over and over. So it's a magnificent machine, but it has to be replaced. And so we need to make sure that we drink enough water each day. And when I'm saying water, I'm not talking about other beverages, not coffee, not tea, not sodas, not even fruit juice. I'm talking about pure Adam's ale, water. So what happens if we don't drink enough water? If we don't provide our bodies with enough water, then we can be dehydrated. And when we become dehydrated, we decrease sweat and urine output. And this is when the body begins to fail to compensate for the loss whenever there's not enough water in the system. And we have insufficient fluids put back in the body to keep the body functioning as it should. So we get dehydrated, and it can become a very serious physical condition. Dehydration causes an impairment of the body's cooling mechanism. It causes it to overheat. So along with a rise in body temperature and an inefficient disposal of the waste, because it helps take the waste out of the body, the blood thickens, and the blood flow becomes impaired, increasing the risk of clotting. And this may manifest itself in a heart attack or a stroke. Dehydration may cause a person to experience dizziness or headache. And during prolonged, serious exercise, dehydration may occur. So careful attention to fluid intake is particularly important among those situations. If you've ever gone to a marathon where someone is running a 26-mile race, what do you see all along the route which they're running? You see tables full of cups of water so they can stay hydrated along the way. Without hydration and also proper electrolytes to compensate for those that are lost, then the person would dehydrate, and a lot of serious things would happen. So you stay constantly hydrated. And also, drinking an inadequate amount of water increases the risk of developing kidney and gallstones. Water is crucial in the whole digestive process. And, we all know, I think, what it feels like when the digestion doesn't work well. I mean, I won't go into any details, but if you want to stay regular, drink water. Exercise and fiber intake play a role as well. In 1995, the Journal of American Medical Association called attention to the hazards from inadequate fluid that older Americans or older individuals were ever faced. It's estimated that adequate hydration of older people could save thousands of days of hospitalization and millions of dollars each year. And such an observation has implications for all age groups worldwide. And that, to me, that's amazing, because in so many cases, medical problems could be avoided if people simply drank more water. The 2005 dietary guidelines for Americans recommend that to stay hydrated during prolonged physical activity or hot fluids, we should drink fluids during the activity, as well as several glasses of water or other electrolyte-related fluids after the physical activity is completed. Begin drinking water in the morning. When you wake up in the morning, get you a glass of water, because the body has been asleep all night, has still been going. Even though you're sleeping, your body's still working, and it needs more water. And so it's slightly dehydrated, and perspiration. Some people sweat during their sleep, so wake up in the morning, help your body get jump-started. And then continue to drink water at regular intervals throughout the day. So the next question that comes up is, how much water should we drink each day? There is no clear-cut answer, because it depends on a number of circumstances. If you're working outside in the hot sun, and you're going to use more, your body's going to use more water. You're going to use more than somebody sitting down on the couch watching television. The website WebMD says that you should try to drink 1/2 to 1 ounces of water for each pound you weigh every day. For example, if you weigh 150 pounds, that would be 150 ounces of water each day, or about this much water. It looks like a lot, but that's how much your body needs each day, especially if you're doing physical activity. Whatever amount you drink, be sure to drink water that is pure and clean. Contaminated water can be very, very dangerous. Here in the United States, we're very blessed because we have clean, fresh water. We can go to the faucet and get water out. We can go to the store and buy bottled water. We have abundance of water here, and we're very, very blessed, and we should be thankful to God for what we have. But did you know that hundreds of millions of people around the world do not have access to fresh and clean water? I mean, like I said, most of us have access to it just right at the turn of a knob. But others in other countries have to work hard, walk miles to find water. Many times the source of water they find is not clean or pure for drinking, and it can cause a host of illnesses. According to UNICEF, across the globe, every day, 1,400 children die from diseases directly linked to unsafe water or a lack of basic sanitation facilities. If that many die each day, can you imagine how many more are suffering the ill effects of not having what most of us here take for granted? I've been to Kenya myself twice since May of this year, May of 2022. And one of the women there from a tribe there in the area, from the Maasai tribe, told me that sometimes they go 3 days without water. That can be fatal. Now, they find other sources of water from animals, which, I won't go into the details, but they find their fluid from animals that they use in their diet. Another important use of water is for cleansing. We know in the Bible that the water is a symbol of spiritual cleansing. In Ephesians 5:25 and 26, husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word. Well, we can understand that because we know that water is a necessity for physical cleanliness. We especially found that out during COVID because it helps stop the spread of disease. When you wash your hands well, it helps take the germs. It kills germs, removes them from your hands, and helps prevent the spreading of germs. And so if people thoroughly wash their hands with soap and water before eating and after activities that soil their hands, a large percentage of infectious diseases would be eliminated. Hydrotherapy, it's a use of water, is a simple home therapeutic application. It can be used for muscle aches, pains, bruises. And so when you got muscle aches, apply hot, wet towels. Let them sit and then alternate them with cold. You get hot, cold. This helps improve the blood flow, which will help you to eliminate waste from your body. A very effective way, a home remedy for doing this. And let me add that if you do any of these things, if you have health issues, make sure before you do any of these treatments that you consult with your doctor. There's some things that it can cause negative issues with. It can cause problems. So if you have diabetes, heart disease, or any kind of diseases, please check with your doctor before starting any kind of health regimen, whether it be for whatever we're talking about today or any other time. But if you're relatively healthy, these things are great home remedies. And so if you've had a recent injury or bruising has occurred, you've twisted your ankle or you've done something that's causing swelling, cold compresses are more appropriate than heat. But caution should be used whenever there are, when it's diseased, if you've got some sort of sores or something or a cut. Make sure to be careful when you're doing those. When blood flow becomes impaired and there is not neurological damage resulting in ability to feel like if you've got something that's causing you to not be able to feel heat and you put heat or cold, you can cause damage. So make sure not to do that if you've got any kind of diabetes and these kind of things. But there are other modes of hydrotherapy such as cold mitten friction, hot foot baths. I know many of us here have come home from work and we're tired, our feet ache, and we get a pot of hot water, and we put our feet in there and soak our feet, and it just makes us feel better. And so if you don't know about hydrotherapy, it's a good thing worth looking into. And we got some meetings coming up here in a couple of weeks at the end of this series, and we're going to talk about some of these things. So make sure not to, even after this meeting's over on Friday, November the 4th, the following day on the 5th and the 6th, we'll be having a specialist here who's going to talk about a number of these things. So I invite you to continue to be with us even after the series ends. The book, The Ministry of Healing, page 137 says, the external application of water is one of the easiest and most satisfactory ways of regulating the circulation of the blood, but many have never learned by experience the beneficial effects of the proper use of water. All should become intelligent in its use in simple home treatments. Yes, water is precious and an indispensable resource and can be used for many, many things. But we saw that a vast majority of Earth's water simply is not drinkable. And worse than that, in some parts of the world, water shortages are terrible. There's drought all over the world. People are dying of starvation because there's not enough water for the crops. Again, on my trip to Kenya this year, I saw firsthand what a drought is like. They've been in a 2-year drought. The ground is dry and dusty. The vegetation is not there. Animals are suffering. You can't grow food in certain areas. Animals are dying, a source of nutrition for many people. And so the water is causing many trickle-down problems that are causing starvation and other problems as well. But did you know that a vegetarian diet can help conserve water? Did you know that? And I'm talking about worldwide. Foods consumed in a plant-based diet require much less water to produce. You can grow a garden much cheaper than you can feed a head of cattle. Than you can give water to drink. It's just natural that it would save that amount of money. So if the world were vegetarians, and I know that's hard to do, especially in certain parts of the world, but if we ate more vegetables where possible, a great deal of the water shortage problems would be solved. And we can go on and on and on about water, and its many ways, and it is truly a miracle liquid. It nourishes us. It sustains us. It can heal us. It can cleanse us. It is truly the liquid of life, which again is why we find it all throughout the Bible. But there's one place in particular where water was a very important topic, and we can see how crucial this whole idea of water is. 2,000 years ago, Jesus went to a well, and he met a woman from Samaria there. And she'd come there to draw some water from the well. And when Jesus saw her, he asked her, he said, "Woman, would you get me a drink of water?" And so they had a conversation. He said to her that he could give her water that would take away her thirst forever. He said, "Whoever drinks of this water," when he pointed to the well, said, "they will get thirsty again." And this is from John 4:13 and 14. But Jesus told her, "But whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into eternal life." There's so much to take away just from here. We have seen just as water is essential for life, it's essential for life for humans here on earth. And life, of course, is a wonderful gift from God. But you know what? We can drink the right amounts of pure fresh water every day. We can follow the health message to every letter. You can be born with the best set of the best genetics that anybody ever had. You can have everything going right for you and do everything right, the right food, the right drink, the right exercise. And yet, you will sooner or later die. There's no question. Water, H2O, no matter how wonderful, no matter how healthy it is for us, no matter how essential for our body it is, it doesn't keep us alive forever. There is no fountain of youth. Ponce de Leon went searching for that before. People have looked for it. But there is no fountain of youth here on this world that you can drink that will keep you alive. But if we want that, and we as humans do want that, then we need something more. Our health message can give us a much better quality of life in here and now. It really can. And it's a wonderful gift to us from life, to God from us, to us for life. But even all these good messages that we have does not give us everlasting life. A jogger was running down the street one day, and someone was driving in a car and rolled down their window and said, "Hey, man, you're going to die anyway." But essentially, even though it might not have been the nicest comment, it was essentially right. However wonderful the health message is, it can't solve our race's, the human race's greatest enemy, which is death. Only Jesus Christ can do that. Which is why when he talked to the Samaritan woman, he sought to point her to a fountain of water that springs up into everlasting life. Everlasting life. He was pointing to himself, and he came to accomplish for every human being that which is to die for his or her sins so that each person could have everlasting life in him. And Jesus used the word, the image of water, a fountain of water, springing up into everlasting life. It just keeps flowing and flowing and flowing. Physical water is essential for life, for our temporal, for our fleeting physical existence. We can't live without physical water. But for eternal life, H2O is useless. If works don't save us, drinking water won't either. No, for that we need Jesus and the redemption and salvation that he worked out in his life for us. We saw in the beginning how prevalent water was in the earliest stages of creation. Well, now if we go from Genesis, the first book of the Bible, and we go to Revelation, the last book of the Bible, Revelation 22, verse 17, we will talk about the existence of the redeemed in the new heaven and the new earth and promised to us. And what do we find? Revelation 22:17. And the Spirit and the bride say, "Come." And let him who hears say, "Come." And let him who, what? Let him who thirsts come. Whoever desires, let him take the water of life freely. The water of life. I encourage you to have a big drink of water. Big drink of water tonight as we close our meeting. And as you take a drink, say a prayer for the millions of people around the world who are thirsting for both physical and spiritual water. There are many people who are thirsting right now. Friends of mine that are watching in other countries. Please pray for them. Pray for rain because they need rain desperately. Water, the source of life. But even pray more that they will receive the water of life, Jesus Christ. Our message tomorrow night is called Use It or Lose It. In this message, we will discuss the importance of taking care of our bodies, both from the doctors and the medical advice in the world and from the Holy Scriptures. Make sure to come back and watch. If you've missed a message, come back and watch it. If you've seen one and you like, share with somebody else. And if you want to get an advance notice of our messages when you're on our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You will get a notification when these meetings start. So you get a pop-up on your phone or your computer to say, live stream has started. There'll be a link for that in our description section under the video when you watch this. Or also in the bottom right-hand corner, you will see a little subscribe link, which you can click on that, which will give you the ability as well. So we invite you to come back tomorrow to hear the message on Use It or Lose It. Have a blessed evening, and we will see you next time.